Howdy, Clay 2 students. I'm in here kind of alone. Frida's in the glaze room, so I'm gonna talk without a mask. But so this was the piece that I threw on Tuesday during class, right? So this is the body of my picture, and I really recommend, guys, if you're going to do something centered, if you're going to do a combo piece that is symmetrical, I really recommend keeping it on the wheel. Don't cut it with a wire until after the attachment. And then also, this curvature inward on the top is very important. If you just stand your walls up like straight, you know, then whatever you join to it has to meet within that itty bitty tiny quarter of an inch. It has to be perfect. And I think one of the nice things about having a rim that, or a top of a piece that kind of falls in like this is now, you know, maybe I decide that I want a very wide top on it. I can put it there. If I want a very narrow top, I can put it there. I'm not as limited, and I also don't have to be quite as accurate, which is nice. So I threw these two spouts. If you remember, I showed you how to pull spouts. And so here's this is kind of a little, short little roundy pooper. I kind of like that guy. Very pleased with how that spout came out. And this one's considerably larger. And, you know, that's gonna give me a lot more height, but I also feel like it's a little bit maybe gratuitous. It's a little larger than I need. I do like the spout, however, beyond just pulling up, then I also added a little bitty coil, blended that in, and then continued to pull so that I could get an even higher spout. So that's not bad, but I prefer the short guy. So first thing I want to do is, on this piece, I want to slip and score. So I'm just going to, and also, very important, this is at a leather hard right now. This is a leather hard where I can touch it. I'm not squishing it. I have a little bit of flexibility in the rim, but not a lot. You do not want to add pieces or combine pieces if they are not at that nice soft leather hard. Just like with your mugs, you know, you wouldn't want to put a handle on them when they're soft. You wouldn't want to put a handle on them when they're bone dry. Kind of same mentality with combining forms. So super easy to score, obviously. I've got a low battery. I've got my Martha Grover slip here and a brush. Also, keep it quick. But yeah, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to do this, you know, at a table. It makes a lot more sense to do it on the wheel where everything is round and symmetrical. So keep that in mind when you're deciding what to do. All right, now I'm going to pop this guy off and go to my spout. So my spout is also attached to the bat. I haven't cut that one off yet either, which is just fine. I could have done it earlier, but I really want to keep the base of this as firm as as soft as possible. And sometimes keeping it on the bat is the best way to keep it from getting exposed to air and consequently getting softened. So there we go, got that cut off. And so now I've got this kind of mess on the inside. I talked with Leanne a little bit about this. She was going after hers and cutting it, which is absolutely fine, right? Nobody's probably gonna see the inside of it. It's absolutely fine if you want to do it that way. However, you can also trim it on the wheel just like you would a bowl, but, right, you don't want to kill your spout. Consequently, we have some chucks and chums over by the bats and things that can help you for trimming. But for this one, and for expediency, I'm not going to. I'm gonna follow the Leanne model, and I'm just going to trim out the inside of that. All right, so I'm just going around, and it's just, you know, you definitely want to use a fettling knife. Do not use a trimming tool. Trimming tools catch, and I'm just kind of working in a nice circular motion. I've made the base of this fairly clean, so I don't have too much work to do there. I'm gonna grab my serrated rib again, slip and score this, And the reason that these are gonna match up, hopefully pretty well, I haven't measured, so you guys will be the second to know if I screwed it up, but remember I measured with the caliper. And by doing that, I can pretty well ensure that I'm at least close. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna let this guy rest upside down. I'm gonna bring my pot back. All right, now before I go any further with this too, I'm gonna double check my thickness, right? A pitcher is something that you're going to use full of liquid. If it's already heavy and then you fill it with liquid, good Lord, that thing's gonna weigh a ton. So I'm poking through and now I can see the very end of my needle tool. So now I'm gonna mark that spot and I'm gonna pull that needle tool out. And there's my thickness, which isn't bad, but I could maybe go a little bit thinner. So I think I'm going to do that. And this is also a great way to show you guys how to kind of wheel trim, right? Another reason to keep these on the wheel. So I'm gonna go in with my loop tool here, and I'm just gonna take out a little bit of this weight. I don't wanna take out a lot, I don't wanna make it weak, but it's a nice way to kind of refine the form a little bit too. You know, it's very, very hard to throw a narrow-based form with a big belly, or a big chest, or a big shoulder, because if it's too thin at the bottom, it won't support that big belly. There we go, that's looking better. There we go. What do we think? Yeah, I like how that looks. Yep, much better. A little bit more right there. There we go. All right, now I don't want to leave my trim lines on there either, right? Because nobody needs to know that I trimmed that baby on the wheel. There's no shame in it, everybody does it, but I like to rib that out anyway. All right, just compressing and smoothing so it looks just like the parts that I threw. You would be none the wiser, people, none the wiser. There we go. Rid of that hesitation. Okay, so now gonna apply the top. So here I'm slipped and scored, here I'm slipped and scored, and score! Get it? That's why we say score, right? So now because it's on the wheel, right, I can give it a couple little spins. See how I'm doing symmetrically? This is up a little bit. Let's come that way. There we go, it's pretty close. And if you remember when I was doing this spout, I talked about being able to get your hand inside as being something to think about, something important. And here is why, right? So now I'm gonna put my hand inside. So I'm gonna go under that interior lip, and here I'm gonna be on the outside, right? If I couldn't get my hand in there, this would be a lot more complicated to attach. So I'm just doing tiny little touches, tiny, tiny, tiny. I don't wanna like squish this, leave a lot of dents in it. I wanna leave it as nice and clean and neat as I possibly can, because that makes cleanup a lot easier. If you want your connection to show, you can absolutely leave it. If you want to blend your connection so that it looks like it was all thrown as one piece, you can just put a little coil in there and work that coil in, right? We can rib it, we can use the serrated rib to make our lines match a little better. But yeah, so it's kind of, I mean, it's such a fun way to make a big form. And it's pretty easy, you know, it's two not very big forms. You put them together and then all of a sudden, you've got a larger form. Okay, I'm gonna stop this now. I'm gonna finish it and then, right, I'm gonna finish it just by kind of going around with my finger and then going around with the rib, making my connection line real nice, and then I'll show you how to pull a handle off of that. Okay, see you later, bye.